Hello? What's my favourite scary movie? Well, funny you should ask, really, because I've been planning to do something about horror movies on my YouTube for a long time, so I thought, what better way of starting that than talking about... Hello? Hello? H- Here are my top 10 horror movies. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dave Musson, and this is the place where, up until now, this is where I talk to you about Stephen King, but this video is the start of my brand new feature, Silver Scream. So this is where I'm going to be talking about horror films, and not just Stephen King horror films. It's something I've wanted to do for ages, and now is the right time to kick it off. And I'm going to be launching it with this video, my top 10 horror movies of all time. I'm very excited to share these with you. Hopefully it'll give you a better sense of the kind of horror films I'm into. I'm also going to run through a list of ones that nearly made the cut because frankly there was plenty that I just couldn't do this video without mentioning. But I'm very excited to share these movies with you, and let me know your favourite horror films in the comments as well. Now, if you happen to be brand new to my channel and you've purely come in because you've seen some random guy on YouTube is posting his top 10 horror movies and you either want to watch and see if you agree, or you just want to wait until I say something silly and then attack me in the comments, fine. Hey, my name's Dave. I've been running this channel for nearly 5 years now. It started life as a Stephen King channel. I've covered all of his books. I've covered just about all of his movies and TV series as well. And I also review books on here. I have a weekly book club where I bring horror fiction that I've really enjoyed, that I think you guys will too, to the channel for you to explore. So that's about it for me, really. You know, I like horror stuff, and that's what the channel is here to talk about. So if you're new, welcome. If you're a long-time viewer, extra welcome as well. So, top 10 horror films then. There, I guess, might be mild spoilers. I haven't really scripted this perfectly. I'm just gonna sort of talk about stuff. I'll try and keep it as spoiler-free as possible. And if a spoiler is brewing, I will let you know so you can skip ahead to the next one. And as I said already, let me know your favourite horror films in the comments. Maybe let me know your top 3. That'd be pretty fun to hear from you as well. So we're going to jump into my top 10 list. But first, a couple of very quick things I want to plug. And if you want to skip this, just find the timestamp in the description for the start of the list. But otherwise, just give me a few seconds and I'll be very grateful. So, bunch of things I like to plug. I have a award-winning collection of short stories from 2024 called Once More Around the Sun. You can find a link to that in the description. I also published a Stephen King trivia book. Thousands, literally thousands of questions on Stephen King. You can find a link to that in the description. I have a range of Stephen King themed band shirts where I mash up band logos and Stephen King stuff. You can find a link to that in the description. And if you enjoy what I'm doing here on this channel, obviously you can subscribe, you can share the videos and tell a friend, but you can also become a member. You can become a constant viewer and get extra content, early access to regular stuff, and some fun emojis. And the link to that is in the description. Okay, let's do this then. Lock the doors, draw your curtains, huddle down. Don't be too scared. Here are my top 10 favourite horror films of all time. So at 10, I'm going for Final Destination 3. Now, the Final Destination franchise was huge in helping me enjoy horror. So I was scarred by my number 1 pick in this list for a long time, that it did take me literally years to be able to watch horror and enjoy it. And it was Final Destination that really broke me back in, I guess. And the Final Destination franchise is an interesting one because for me, it's one of those rare ones where the first one is not the best one. And I was torn as to which to include on this list between 2 and 3, because like the opening premonition of Final Destination 2, particularly the log truck, I mean, that is an all-timer, but I had to go with my heart, and my heart was telling me 3. So I had a great experience watching this for the first time at university with friends in the cinema. And I just love the tone of this movie from start to finish. It is perfect. It's a really bitchy movie with nasty kills, tongue-in-cheek humour, and elaborate details and setups that just feels like a perfect encapsulation of this entire franchise. The roller coaster, the sunbeds, the motor popping out of the car, the nail gun, all of those kind of things are just terrific. And to top it off, an exquisite head PE needle drop They were the first band that I went to see live without parents taking me to a gig. So much nostalgia and meaning wrapped into it for me. I think I can accept that objectively Final Destination 3 is maybe not the best in the franchise, but it's absolutely my favourite, and it's definitely worthy of a place in my top 10. Oh, and if you like Final Destination, well, we'll be talking a lot more about that here on this channel in the coming weeks. Okay, at 9, the 1989 original version of Pet Sematary. Look, I had to include a Stephen King adaptation in this list, right? And Pet Sematary is the one for me. It's pulpy, it's creepy, it's gooey. It's kind of trashy, but also scary, and so many good performances throughout this entire movie. Pascal, Judd, Gage. I mean, everything with Gage is so creepy and weird. Fred Gwynne as Judd is iconic. So many incredible moments. I think even though it is overwhelmingly 80s, it has aged really well, and I just love it. And I think it's not my favourite Stephen King adaptation until you filter that down to Stephen King horror adaptations, and then it absolutely is. And if you want to hear me talking more about this movie, I have a video giving you 19 reasons to watch it elsewhere on this channel, so go and check that out. So at 8, I'm picking a French film that, when it's translated, is either called The Perfect Nanny or Lullaby, depending on where you're watching. I think Perfect Nanny is the US translation, Lullaby is the UK one. Anyway, wow, this film. So this is a film about a middle-class Parisian couple who hire a nanny to look after their kids, and the story that surrounds that. It's based on real events, and it's an adaptation of a Leila Slimani novel called Chanson Douce, which is where Lullaby comes from as the translation. And, oh, this film just got under my skin and made it crawl. There's no kind of jump scares. There's no person in a mask hiding behind the curtain. There's no home invasion, no monsters, all of those kind of things. This is just dread building on dread, building on dread, building on dread, building on dread, all the way through to make you inherently uncomfortable right from the start. And it's punctuated with these just scenes and visions that are just thoroughly unnerving. One involving nudity that is like, what? And another one involving an octopus that I still can't spend too long thinking about because I just don't like it. Like, it offers such a fascinating commentary on class, on parenting, on modern life, on responsibility. And it's one that even watching with subtitles, you would be thoroughly chilled by this movie. So at 7, Jaws. Now, I watched Jaws for the first time when I was 5, and I didn't go swimming for at least a month because I was terrified there would be a great white shark in the swimming pool, even though obviously sharks can't survive in chlorinated water. Didn't matter. That film completely messed me up. Now, I know that people might argue that by today's standards, the film is tame. I think that's rubbish. This film is still truly really scary, and what a brilliant matching of a monster movie and a slasher together, right? And you feel pain at every one of the deaths here. They are still hugely affecting and just gruesome to watch. And this film is littered with just horror iconography. It's why it's such a seminal film. I mean, the musical sting, the opening sequence, the jump scare where Hooper is diving, the ending, the terrifying monologue from Quint. Like, all of these things are just etched into the consciousness of pretty much every horror fan. It is a permanent fixture in pop culture, and it's just a wonderful film and a brilliant watch every 4th of July. Stay out of the water, kids. So at 6, I'm picking X. And this, I remember going to see this in the cinema, and this was everything I wanted from a horror film. A smoking hot cast, tongue-in-cheek humour, some great kills, a kind of silly but compelling story. A massive crocodile. I mean, what more do you want? It nails the 70s aesthetic perfectly. it tells you right from its opening scene that something bad happened in this film, and we're going to discover what exactly went down. And some of the performances are wonderful. You dislike most of the cast, let's face it, but you're meant to. And then, of course, there's Mia Goth playing two roles. But in one of the roles in particular, like, I was enjoying the movie anyway for it being this really fresh horror film. But then to have my mind just blown at how insanely hot Mia Goth is. Yes, completely shallow, I know, but my God. She's wonderful in this film. And I just love it. It's just such a romp of a film. And yeah, it immediately cemented itself in my top 10. And let's face it, Pearl and Maxine are both pretty great as well. It was very close for me deciding which one between X and Pearl I was going to include here, but there was just something about the swagger and the atmosphere of X that just edged it for me. But would highly recommend all three. F5 then, Midsommar. This is an Ari Aster film, an absolutely punishing 2.5 hours of daylight horror set in this cult in the north of Sweden, where this community has very different ideas and rituals about life and death. And as much as being a just brilliant horror film, which it is, it's also a fascinating look at community and exactly about life and about death and about how we celebrate those different things and mark those different things and how we treat outsiders and just cultural differences in general. Florence Pugh gives the performance of her life in this. She is just completely captivating from start to finish. And all her friends are just dicks. And you love seeing them come across this exhausting but fully worth it runtime. Like, I lose myself in this movie every time I watch it. You don't notice that it's 2.5 hours long. I love it. I love it so much. The aesthetic, the story, the whole thing, just magnificent. And proof that you can do scary, scary stuff in broad daylight. From broad daylight to Darkest Night. We're going to Halloween 1978, and quite probably the most important horror movie of all time, certainly when it comes to slashers. And I mean, this is just an inherently watchable film, which is weird to say about a guy in a mask going around killing mainly young women, but it's such a well-made film. And the story is wonderful. And there's just something weird about it in terms of why is a slasher so comforting and cozy? And yet it's a really cozy watch. And I didn't watch this for years and years and years, and I think I built the legend of it in my head to way too much, and I was expecting it to be like far more shocking than it is, and it is a truly scary film. But there is just something about it that just feels right when you're a horror fan and you're watching Michael Myers in his mask going around and doing all that stuff. Like I say, just a wonderfully made film, and it's not just one of the best horror films ever, it's one of the best films ever. Like, full stop. And yes, it spawned a franchise that is wildly hit and miss, and has spawned thousands of copycat films. But, yeah, I'm struggling to articulate quite how brilliant this film is, but I love it. The only reason it's not higher in my 10 is just because it does make me feel so cozy, and I don't necessarily want to feel cozy when I'm watching a horror film, but it is a masterpiece of cinema. So at 3, I'm going for Hereditary. Yes, a second Ari Aster pick in the top 5. And this one edges Midsommar for me because it's just so bleak, and I like bleak stuff. Toni Collette in this is incredible. How she didn't get nominated for an Oscar is just utterly ridiculous. She is just off the scale brilliant in this film. And what I love most about this is, so we get a lot of horror films, particularly from the last 10 or 15 years, a lot of horror films use trauma as a part of their narrative, but none of them use trauma like Hereditary does. And just the atmosphere, some of the most iconic shots I can think of, And just little things that once you've watched the movie will just creep you out. Like, my kid did that, just completely unprompted, not long ago. I fucking lost it. I did just like, no, I can't deal with that. And the finale for this film, like the final act, it just goes off. And oh man, I love it. In fact, I might just have to go and watch it again once I'm done recording this because so good. So at 2 then, I'm picking Get Out. I mean, this is an absolutely fantastic horror film that any horror fan should watch. But I would also argue it is just a brilliant film in general that I think just about every adult really should watch, especially white adults. This is a compelling commentary on race, on racism, on class, all of those kind of things. But it's delivered in a way, with Jordan Peele, the way he can marry horror and humour. It's just a romp of a movie. And it makes its point brilliantly in the midst of this just super creepy, compelling, and fundamentally brilliant film. So many great moments. The sunken place is a wonderful idea. Some of the scenes, again, in this have lodged in my head to the point where I just think about them on a daily basis without even consciously thinking, oh yeah, that's from Get Out. And yeah, some of the twists in this, when you watch it for the first time, so good. Like, as a first time watch, this is a great movie. But frankly, I would watch it for a third time if I could. And a half. I've watched it for way more than 3 times. So there you go. Okay then, but my number 1 pick, my favourite horror movie of all time, I'm wearing the t-shirt, is Scream from 1996. Now, I mentioned earlier that my number 1 pick messed me up. This is the film that fucked me up and stopped me watching horror films for a long time. So let me tell you the story of this just quickly. Indulge me, it's my video, it's my number 1 pick. So back in October 1998, so I was 12 years old. I was at a sleepover with friends, and one of the friends brought one of her friends with her, who wasn't in our class. She was in our school, but she wasn't in our class. We didn't really know her. And this sort of outsider bought a taped off the TV VHS of Scream, and we watched that. And it messed me up. I had never seen, apart from Jaws and Jurassic Park, I'd never seen a proper horror film before. I'd never seen anything with the idea of home invasion before. And that completely freaked me out. I'd never seen violence at that level, although the violence didn't really bother me too much. The home invasion completely got under my skin. And the mask, the ghost face mask, haunted my nightmares, my dreams, and most of my daylight hours for a good year after watching this. It just completely messed me up to the point where for about a month after this sleepover, I genuinely had to have one of my parents in my bedroom watching me when I went to sleep. I was freaked out. We were in winter by that point, so it was dark from 5 o'clock. I was freaked out going anywhere near either front door, front window, or back door of my house after dark because I was terrified that that ghost face mask was going to be pressed up against it. I had to make sure all of the doors were locked when I was in the house. It completely messed me up. And I would be in class, I would be doodling while sort of zoning out on lessons, and I would just be drawing the ghost face mask. It completely got under my skin, and it literally took years, basically 2 decades, for me to be able to watch this film properly. So fast forward, over 2 decades. 1998 was when I watched it, and it completely messed me up. And I slowly got into horror, as I mentioned, particularly with Final Destination stuff. But I still couldn't go back to Scream until 2022, when I decided I wanted to get back into it and finally watch the entire franchise. And even then, I had to build myself up to watching the opening scene with Drew Barrymore. And I had to find that on YouTube, and I had to watch it in about 3 or 4 goes on different days, building up, because that scene, it's brilliant horror cinema, and it messed me up. That is the scene that messed me up completely. and I had to build myself up to be able to watch that. And then finally I watched the film and I loved it. I didn't remember how funny it was, and I knew all of the references it was going for now. And I then devoured the entire franchise, and it is absolutely top of my list, without a doubt. Now, I am still freaked out by The Mask, but I just love what this film did and continues to do every time you watch it. I still haven't watched it that many times because I've still got that sort of embedded trauma scarred in my brain, but I love it. There are so many scenes that are just tattooed onto my brain. And to be honest, when I did go back and finally watch it, even though it had been 24 years since I'd watched it, that first viewing had imprinted itself so powerfully on me that I basically remembered every single beat and every single scene. But yeah, what a film. What a film. And a great franchise as well. I think a really underrated franchise. There's not many low moments in that franchise. But the opening movie of that collection is definitely the one for me. I'm just really sad that I'm kind of out on Scream 7 because their producers fired Melissa Barrera because she showed support for the people in Palestine. Like, it's my favorite franchise, but I'm not going to be supporting that. So I'll just have to hold on to the ones that I've already got. And Scream from 1996 is my favorite. It's my favorite horror movie of all time. There's my top 10. Let me know your favorites in the comments. Right then, before we get to the outro, I've got a list of honourable mentions that almost made my cut. And I'm just going to list them and just run through them. But these are all horror films that I also love. And this is like basically joint 11. So we have The Feast, which is a Welsh folk horror film. Amazing. Dogtooth, which is a Greek film that's done by Yorgos, what's his face, who did Poor Things and all of that kind of stuff. Scream 2. Yeah. The Shining. The Substance. The Menu. Pearl, which I've already mentioned, Late Night with the Devil, The Exorcist, The Mist, The Wicker Man, the original one, Black Christmas, the original one, Speak No Evil, both versions, the Danish Dutch version and the American English version, My Little Eye, terrible film, but like absolutely hilarious and brilliant, and just I have very fond memories of watching that. Host, a wonderful pandemic thing shot on Zoom that will freak you out and gets in and out in an hour. The original Blair Witch Project, the original Carrie, and Longlegs. And I'm always watching new films and enjoying stuff and watching stuff that is new to me as well. So there's probably loads more that would get added to that if you ask me again in a year. So there's my joint 11th as well. Okay, is that enough horror films for you in one video? Cool. Okay, there we go. My top 10 horror movies, plus a bunch of honourable mentions. Don't forget, let me know your 3 favourite horror movies in the comments. And let me know if anything on this list has caught your eye, caught your ear. Something you might not have watched yet. I would guess off the top of my head that maybe from my top 10, Lullaby / The Perfect Nanny is possibly the one that the fewest people have seen. Watch it. It's great, especially with the octopus. And if you've got ideas for future videos for this new section, Silver Scream, what do you want to hear me talking about when it comes to horror movies? Let me know as well. And join me again next time because I'm going to be doing my first franchise ranking. And because there's a new one on the horizon as I record this, we're going in with a look at the Final Destination movies. But until then, take care, subscribe if you like, check out all the links in the description, stay safe, stay scared, and I will see you soon.